Nobody moved. Not when the most feared mafia boss in the city collapsed behind the nightclub. Not when he tried to breathe. Not even when his fingers scraped weakly across the pavement beside him. People saw him. They just chose not to help. Because everyone in the city knew what helping Adrian Volkov meant. Trouble. Questions. Danger. Sometimes death. Minutes earlier, Adrian had been standing exactly where he always stood during private meetings behind the club. Confident. Calm. Untouchable. Until the guns appeared. His closest lieutenant stepped forward first, the man Adrian trusted more than anyone else inside his organization. There was no argument, no warning, only a quiet sentence. "You ruled long enough." The first bullet struck before Adrian understood what was happening. Pain exploded through his side. A second shot followed immediately, then a third. His knees hit the ground hard. He looked up slowly, not at strangers, at men he had built his empire with. None of them looked away. None of them hesitated. They removed his watch, took his phone, collected his wallet. One of them checked his pulse briefly. Then they walked away, leaving him to die behind his own nightclub. Minutes passed. Music continued playing on the other side of the wall. People laughed inside. Cars arrived. Doors opened. Life continued normally while Adrian Volkov bled into the shadows. A delivery worker entered the alley pushing a metal cart. He almost tripped over Adrian's body. For a moment, he froze. Recognition spread across his face. Fear followed immediately after. He stepped backward, looked around quickly, then turned his cart around and left without saying a word. Two teenagers entered the alley next. They stopped instantly. "That's him," one whispered. His friend grabbed his arm. "Don't look," he said. They ran. No one wanted to be involved. Adrian tried to breathe again. Air barely reached his lungs. His fingers tightened weakly against the pavement. He had survived attacks before. He had survived enemies before. But betrayal felt different. Betrayal felt final. His vision began fading slowly. And that was when someone unexpected entered the alley. She pushed a broken shopping cart filled with blankets and plastic bottles. Her coat was torn. Her shoes were worn thin. Most people in the city crossed the street to avoid her. Others pretended she didn't exist at all. Her name was Elena, and she saw him immediately. She stopped moving. Her eyes scanned the blood, the wounds, his breathing. She understood instantly. He was dying. Most people would have kept walking. Elena dropped her cart and ran toward him. She knelt beside him without hesitation, her fingers pressed against his neck, searching for a pulse. Weak. Too weak. "Stay with me," she whispered. Her voice was calm, focused, professional. Not the voice of someone guessing what to do. The voice of someone trained to save lives. She lifted his head carefully, adjusted his breathing, pressed her sleeve against the wound in his side. Blood soaked through the fabric immediately. She didn't stop. "Stay awake," she told him quietly. "You're not dying here." Adrian's eyes opened slightly. For a moment, he thought he was imagining her, a homeless woman leaning over him in the darkness. But her hands were steady, precise, confident, not afraid. She tore the inside lining from her coat and tied pressure around his wound. Then she checked his breathing again. Her movements were exact, controlled, medical. Adrian tried to speak. No sound came out. Elena leaned closer. "It's all right," she said softly. "I'm here." Something about her voice felt familiar, not recent, not clear, but real, as if he had heard it before, somewhere long ago, somewhere important. His vision blurred again. Darkness pulled at him. He forced his eyes open one last time. He saw her face clearly. Tired, cold, determined, and strangely familiar. Then everything disappeared. Sirens approached minutes later. Elena stepped back immediately. If police found her beside him, they wouldn't ask questions. They would blame her. People like her were always blamed first. She looked at him one last time, still breathing, still alive. Then she disappeared into the shadows before anyone arrived, behind her. Adrian Volkov survived, but something inside him had already begun to change, because for the first time in his life, someone helped him without fear, without payment, without knowing who he really was, and he could not stop thinking about her face, even before he opened his eyes again. Adrian Volkov woke slowly. At first, he didn't recognize where he was. White ceiling, soft lighting, machines beeping beside him. For a moment, he thought he was still dying. Then memory returned. The alley, the gunshots, the betrayal, and her. His eyes opened wider. He tried to sit up. Pain shot through his side immediately. A doctor stepped forward. "Don't move," the man said quickly. "You survived surgery, but barely." Adrian ignored him. Instead, he asked one question. "Who brought me here?" The doctor hesitated. "A patrol unit found you behind the nightclub," he said. "They said someone stabilized your bleeding before they arrived." Adrian's voice stayed calm. "Who?" "We don't know." That answer was unacceptable. Adrian turned his head slowly toward the window beside his bed. Someone knew. Someone always knew. Nothing in his city happened without leaving a trace, and whoever saved his life mattered, more than anyone understood yet. Hours later, 2 of his remaining guards entered the room. They looked nervous, careful, respectful. But something else was there too. Uncertainty. Their leader had almost died. That changed everything inside an organization like theirs. Adrian spoke before they did. "Find her." The guards exchanged quick glances. "We're already searching," one of them replied. "Security cameras near the alley weren't working," the second added. "Witnesses won't talk." Adrian's expression remained calm. "Search again." His voice was quiet, but final. Across the city, Elena sat behind an abandoned storage building near the market district. Morning sunlight touched the pavement nearby. She stayed in the shade, invisible, silent. Her hands still carried faint stains from dried blood. She hadn't slept, not even for an hour. Instead, she held something small between her fingers, an old plastic identification badge, scratched, faded, almost unreadable now, but still real. Elena Morozova, registered nurse. The hospital logo printed in the corner had nearly disappeared with time. Still, she never threw it away, because it reminded her who she used to be. Years earlier, Elena walked through hospital corridors with confidence. Doctors trusted her. Patients depended on her. Other nurses followed her instructions during emergencies. She worked long shifts without complaint, because saving lives mattered. Until one night changed everything. The memory returned slowly. Bright hospital lights, urgent footsteps. An unidentified patient rushed into emergency care. He wasn't just injured. He was afraid. He kept repeating the same sentence. "They're coming." Elena had tried to calm him, tried to stabilize him, tried to understand what he meant. Then suddenly, another patient arrived. Gunshot wound, critical condition, no identification. Security cleared the hallway immediately. Doctors whispered urgently. Someone important had arrived. Elena was assigned to assist. She worked quickly, carefully, professionally, stopping the bleeding, stabilizing his breathing, keeping him alive long enough for surgery. The man survived. No one told her his name, but before he was moved out of emergency care, He opened his eyes briefly and looked directly at her. She remembered that moment clearly because he looked at her with the same expression she saw again in the alley: recognition. That patient had been Adrian Volkov. She didn't know it at the time, but she knew it now. Back then, she simply did her job. She saved a stranger. Hours later, the first patient died, the frightened witness, the one who kept repeating the warning: "They're coming." Hospital administrators called it a medical failure. Security reports disappeared, records were changed, and somehow, responsibility became hers. Negligence, suspension, investigation, license revoked, career destroyed, life erased. Within months, her apartment was gone. Her savings were gone. Her future was gone. Only the streets remained. Elena closed her eyes slowly. She had spent years trying not to think about that night, trying not to ask questions that had no answers. But last night changed something, because she recognized him, the man she saved in the alley, the same man she saved years earlier in the hospital, Adrian Volkov. Meanwhile, inside the hospital recovery room, Adrian stared at a file resting on the table beside him. His assistant had brought it quietly that afternoon, a list of missing surveillance footage from older operations, witness relocation reports, medical interference cases connected to past conflicts. Normally, he never reviewed old material personally, but something about the woman in the alley felt familiar, too familiar. He opened the file slowly, turned one page, then another, until he stopped. A hospital report from years earlier rested in front of him. Gunshot victim. Identity protected. Emergency stabilization performed by Nurse Elena Morozova. Adrian's breathing slowed. He leaned closer to the page, reading the name again. Then again. Elena Morozova. The same name his investigators failed to locate on the streets. The same name attached to a nurse blamed in a hospital death the same night. His fingers tightened slightly against the edge of the file. Memory returned suddenly. Bright emergency lights, cold hospital air. A nurse leaning over him. Calm voice, steady hands, keeping him alive. "It was her," he whispered. "Years ago. She saved him first. Long before the alley. Long before everything changed. And he never even knew her name. Now she had saved him again. Twice. The same woman, the same hands, the same voice. Somewhere in the city, the person who saved Adrian Volkov 2 different times was living alone on the streets, forgotten by everyone else, but not anymore. Adrian did not sleep that night. He remained in his office long after everyone else left the building. The file stayed open in front of him. Elena Morozova. The same nurse who saved him years earlier. The same woman who saved him again in the alley. The same woman whose life collapsed the night the hospital witness died. Adrian turned another page slowly, then another, and then he stopped. There it was, the second report, the one he hadn't expected to see. Witness relocation failure, emergency hospital containment, status neutralized. Adrian's expression changed immediately. He remembered that operation. Years ago, one witness survived something he wasn't supposed to survive. That witness reached the hospital alive, and living witnesses created problems, especially witnesses who talked. Orders had been given, quietly, indirectly, but clearly enough. The witness never left the hospital alive. The official report blamed medical negligence, responsibility assigned to Nurse Elena Morozova. Adrian leaned back slowly in his chair. The silence inside the office became heavy. The woman who saved him twice lost everything because of his decision. He had not known her name then, had not known her face, had not known what happened afterward. But none of that mattered now, because the result was the same. His empire destroyed her life. For the first time in many years, Adrian Volkov felt something unfamiliar. Regret. Real regret. Not strategic regret, not calculated regret. Human regret. He stood up immediately, called his assistant. "Prepare the car," he said. His assistant hesitated. "At this hour?" "Yes." Within minutes, Adrian left the building without security escorts, without bodyguards, without announcement. That alone surprised everyone who worked for him. Adrian Volkov never moved through the city alone, until now. Across town, Elena walked slowly beside a quiet warehouse street near the shipping district. Night had already fallen. The streetlights barely worked. She preferred places like this. Fewer people, fewer questions, fewer risks. Her shopping cart moved quietly beside her. Inside were blankets, empty bottles, and pieces of cardboard she used for sleeping. She stopped near the entrance of an old loading dock and sat down. Her body felt tired again. Saving Adrian in the alley had cost her more strength than she expected. Still, she did not regret it. Helping people was something she could never stop doing, even after everything she lost. Headlights appeared at the end of the street. A black car approached slowly, then stopped near her. Elena didn't move, didn't panic, didn't run. She simply watched. The door opened. Adrian stepped out, alone. No guards, no protection, just him. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. They looked at each other in silence. Finally, Elena broke it first. "I knew you would find me," she said. Her voice stayed calm, but her eyes stayed sharp. Adrian stepped closer slowly. "You saved my life," he replied. "You already saved it once before." Elena studied him carefully. "So you remember?" "Yes." The street remained quiet around them. Cold air moved between the warehouse buildings. "You shouldn't be here," Elena said. "People like me bring problems." Adrian shook his head. "No," he said. "People like me bring problems." Elena almost smiled. Almost. Then her expression changed again. "You didn't come here to thank me," she said. "No," Adrian answered honestly. "I came here to tell you the truth." Silence returned. Elena waited. Adrian continued. "The witness who died that night in the hospital?" Her hands tightened slightly around the edge of her coat. "Was supposed to disappear," he finished. She already understood what that meant. "You ordered it," she said. "Yes." He didn't hesitate, didn't lie, didn't soften the answer. The honesty surprised her more than the confession itself. "You destroyed my career," she said quietly. "Yes." "You destroyed my life." "Yes." Another silence followed, longer this time. He didn't interrupt it, didn't defend himself, didn't explain the reasons behind the decision, because none of the reasons mattered anymore. Finally, Elena asked the question she never thought she would ask. "Why tell me now?" Adrian answered immediately. "Because you saved me anyway." That answer changed something between them. Not everything, but something. "You didn't know it was me," she said. "No." "You helped me anyway." "Yes." Elena looked away briefly, toward the empty street beside them, toward the city lights far in the distance. "I thought about letting you die," she admitted quietly. Adrian nodded. "I know." "But I couldn't," she continued. "I'm still a nurse." That sentence stayed in the air between them. Simple, honest, powerful. Adrian reached inside his coat slowly, then handed her a thin folder. "What is this?" she asked. "Your case," he replied. Elena did not open it immediately. Instead, she looked at him again, carefully, suspiciously. "You can't fix this," she said. "No," Adrian answered, "but I can start." Elena opened the folder slowly. Inside were official documents, statements, medical board reviews, letters of correction. Her name. Cleared. Restored. For a moment, she simply stared at it. Then she looked at him. You did this?" she asked quietly. "Yes," Adrian replied. "I reopened your case. I corrected what was broken. I cannot undo the past, but I can fix what happens next." Her hands trembled slightly as she ran them over the papers. "You could have done nothing," she whispered. "But you didn't." Adrian nodded slowly. "Because someone with nothing saved me twice, and I never forgot it." Elena's eyes flicked toward him. "You knew?" "Yes," he admitted. "The first time you saved me at the hospital, I didn't know who you were, but I survived because of you. And the second time in the alley, you saved me again, and I finally realized who you were." Elena's expression changed. Shock, hurt, confusion, and finally, understanding. "Twice?" she whispered. "Yes," he said quietly. "Twice." The air between them felt heavier than any gunshot. He had destroyed her life. He had unknowingly saved her once, and now he had brought her back from nothing. Elena closed her eyes. For years, she had walked the streets believing the world had abandoned her. Now, in front of her, stood the man whose shadow ruled the city, and whose hand had unknowingly shaped her fate. She began, but stopped. Words failed her. Adrian stepped closer, carefully. "Don't say anything," he whispered. "Just know, I'll make it right." For the first time in years, Elena felt the weight of fear lift slightly. The streets, the cold, the nights alone, all of it. It didn't disappear completely, but a door had opened. Weeks passed. The hospital reissued statements. Her license was restored. Her reputation rebuilt. Patients recognized her. Colleagues welcomed her back. Adrian kept his distance, yet he remained nearby. Not as a boss, not as a client, but as someone who understood the cost of mistakes and the value of the people who save lives. One night, Elena stepped outside the hospital doors after a long shift. The city was quiet. Neon lights glimmered off the wet pavement. She felt a presence behind her. Adrian stood across the street. No guards, no threats, just him. "You've come far," he said quietly. "I wanted to make sure you were safe." Elena smiled faintly. "Safe is a relative term," she replied. "But yes, I am." They stood there silently for a few moments. Two people from different worlds, one who ruled shadows, one who survived them. "Why me?" she asked finally. Adrian looked toward the city skyline, lights stretching endlessly. "Because someone with nothing chose to save me, twice, and that showed me what truly matters." Elena nodded. For the first time, she believed him, not because of power, not because of money, but because of truth. The city behind them continued unaware. Lights flickered, cars passed, life went on. But in that moment, everything had changed. Elena had her life back. Adrian had a debt he could never repay. Yet through her, he understood what redemption truly meant. And sometimes, the strongest men in the world only learn the meaning of power after someone with nothing chooses to save them. They walked away slowly, separate paths, connected forever. By fate, by life, by the quiet heroism of one nurse who refused to look away. The city would never know her name, but Adrian Volkov never forgot it, and neither would she.